even though the Democratic bid to get rid of the filibuster in order to pass a highly dubious voting rights law, this Democratic effort would seem to have failed. But nevertheless, this hasn't stopped the Democratic sort of howling and screaming. And it kind of reminds me of a star that is actually burned out, that is dead, but its flashes of light continue to be felt throughout the universe because the light is still traveling, even though the star, the source of the light, is gone. But I want to talk about the massive hypocrisy of the Democrats on this score, on the filibuster score, which has a sort of new twist to it. But first, let me start with the background. We all know that in 2017, when Trump was in office, a bunch of Democrats, in fact, 32 Senate Democrats, signed a letter basically saying, we need the filibuster. The filibuster is an essential protection of minority rights. The filibuster is something that you can't possibly think of getting rid of. And that same filibuster that the Democrats rushed to defend in 2017 now has become, it's a reflection of white nationalism. It shows contempt for democratic values. It's downright fascist. So the same people who defended the filibuster now flip around and suddenly make all these accusations about it. It's not just that they have changed their position. I suppose that kind of hypocrisy is normal in politics. It's that it's the rhetoric they use. Suddenly the filibuster has now become standing on the side of George Wallace. Suddenly it's become choosing Bull Connor over John Lewis. Suddenly it's become choosing the Confederacy over the Union. I mean, all this high temperature rhetoric. And some of this rhetoric is even directed against two fellow Democrats, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, as if they are now in the camp of the bigots and the racists. Now, what makes this twist so interesting is that right now, in fact, this past week in Congress, Senator Ted Cruz has been trying to push a bill that would impose sanctions on Russia for its Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Now, this is a pipeline, you may know, that Russia is building to pump oil to Germany. It gives the Russians all kinds of leverage over Europe and specifically over Germany. This is something, by the way, that Trump, the so-called Russian asset, opposed, and something that Biden has cleared. And the interesting thing about the Ted Cruz sanctions vote is Ted Cruz has 55 votes for sanctions. In other words, he lost only a single Republican, Rand Paul, on libertarian grounds, and he has a bunch of Democrats, by and large Democrats from swing districts. But these Democrats have signed on to Ted Cruz's sanctions, so he has a majority. So you would think that the sanctions law would pass, but it hasn't passed. It won't pass. Why? The Democrats are filibustering it. So this very racist tool, this Jim Crow relic, this Bull Connor tactic, this George Wallace scheme is being used not in 2017 under the Trump administration, but is being used right now under the Biden administration this past week by the Democrats to block the sanctions bill on Nord Stream 2. So this is carrying hypocrisy to a whole new level. I mean, only the Democrats can reach this kind of zenith of absolute two-facedness. And what this shows is that this is a party really utterly without scruples. These are people utterly without shame. Why? Because they know that they're using as they are using the filibuster, they're pretending in a different venue, and of course with genuflecting media cooperation, they're pretending like, we need to get away from this racist relic, the very relic that we are using right now.